Hey you guys, this is Burnett Alton. I am doing my Sunday evening devotional for you this evening where last week we talked about doing no harm and being grateful for all of God's children. This week we're talking about doing good and being grateful for our families and our churches. And I have a book that I'm going to share with you that's about that. But I was just going to mention really quick, my dog has decided it's time to chase the cat. There are a lot of easy ways to show that you're thankful for your family and your church. You can do a coupon book for people in your family, things that you would be willing to do in appreciation for them. And at church, next time you're there, you can just wander through the whole building. You can see all the things that need doing. And I can think of a couple of people right now. Ben comes and cuts the grass at the church all the time and has it looking nice, and Miss Cindy cleans all those windows and everything, really, all the graham cracker crumbs that we leave behind. So there's a lot that needs to be done and a lot to give thanks for. And so I'm going to read a verse for you from the book of Matthew, chapter 25, and I'm going to read 34 through 40. And it says, Then the king will say to those at his right hand, Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. I can think of people in our church that visit those who are sick. I can think of people who are in our church that have visited those that are in prison and that offer clothing and food to people who need it. A lot of your families actually have when we have done a food drive. So there's lots of ways to give thanks and be thankful, and do that by doing good. So I'm going to read my little book for you today. This is one of my favorites, and it's so special to me that I have it in a bag to protect it because it's an old book. I found it in a used bookstore in Nashville. It's called A Street of Churches. It's by Catherine Dougherty. And I love the pictures, and so I'm going to try to be off to the side so you can see all the pictures really well. A Street of Churches. Oh, this is harder than you think. And I need glasses more than I'm willing to admit. Okay. People all over the world go to many kinds of churches. Big churches, little churches, tall churches, low churches, wood churches, brick churches, stone churches. In our town, there is a street of churches. It is called Church Street. It was named for the churches that stand on the street. Did you know that in Ringgold there's a church street? It's a tiny little street, and it ends right at our church. When I go to work, every morning I go to work, I come in on Church Street. All right. Some people call it the Street of Churches. It is a long street which stretches for blocks and blocks. Church Street is the street where I live. Once long ago, our street was called Pine Street. There were tall green pine trees growing all along the street, so the street was named for the trees. But as more people moved on the street, more houses and more churches were built. The street grew longer and longer. The tall pine trees were cut down. So the name of our street was changed from Pine Street to Church Street. There's a hustle and bustle in the houses on Church Street. on Sunday mornings. The families are getting ready to go to church. You see why I thought of this book about doing good, being thankful for our churches and our families? Can you see the pictures? The fathers, the mothers, the boys and girls help one another, and then they all go to church together. Our street is like a parade on Sunday mornings when the families come out of their houses. Some of them go up the street, some of them go down the street. My good friend, Solly, calls out to me when I pass his house on my way to church. Solly and his family go to a big temple in the center of town. It's called a synagogue. They go to their house of God on Saturdays. Solly tells me about the holy days and holidays in his synagogue. She has friends that go to even different kinds of churches. Sometimes he shares his holiday food with me. One day he chanted a prayer for me. It had a beautiful faraway sound. It's not like the way I pray, but each of us is talking to God in his own way. I like that part. The Smith family goes to the biggest church on our street. It looks so pretty, all white and gleaming. In the morning sunlight, a tall spire reaches high into the sky. At night, when it is lighted, you can see it from all over our town. The bell in the spire has a clear, slow sound when it rings on Sunday morning. I think it is calling not just the people who go to that church, but all people everywhere to go to church. If you didn't know, our church steeple is lit at night as well, and we have a bell tower right outside of our doors. Most of you know you can go and pull the rope on that bell, make it ring. Make sure you can see it really well. The Brown family goes to the newest church on our street. It has a new, cool, wet smell inside. The windows are white and crinkly, so you can't look inside. When the sun shines through, there are soft bands of light across the floor. This church is a low church built in the shape of a cross. It is made of redwood that comes from the big forest out west. The benches are made of redwood too. They are different from most church benches, but they seem just right for that church. The Brown family sings in the church choir, and Mr. Brown says singing in church is another way of talking to God. What's happening there? John, my next door neighbor, and his family go to a very old church on our street. His mother and father were married in the church. So were his grandfather and grandmother, and his great-grandfather and his great-grandmother. That's a lot of families to be married in the same church. It was built when our street was just a country road. John's church is set way back from the street among many old trees. The branches are so thick and green, the only patches of blue sky shine through on a summer day. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm going to start that over. The branches are so thick and green that only patches of blue sky shine through on a summer day. There's an old hitching post in the churchyard where people who rode in buggies tied their horses. The inside of the church has a soft old smell, like the smell of Christmas trees. The benches are carved with grapes and leaves. They are very long with tall, straight backs. You can see just the tops of the people's heads where they sit quiet and still on Sunday mornings. At first, this church was very small. It did not have very many members. It wasn't that people didn't go to church. It's just that there weren't many people living in our neighborhood. Many changes have been made in this church, but no one wants to change the part that was built first. John says it wouldn't seem right. The old part is made of stone that was dug out of the ground where the church is standing. The wooden part of the church came from the trees that had to be cut down to make room for the church. The people wanted and needed a church, so they built it themselves. There's a story and a picture of John's church in my brother's history book. It is the oldest church in our town. It is the oldest church in our state. We are all proud of it. And then there's my church, where my family goes. Our church has a carillon that plays soft music on Sunday afternoons. The children on our street stop playing and sit quietly to listen. It gives a peace and stillness to our street. Our church is made of smooth gray stone that looks like the clouds on a winter day. Tall white vases hold blue flowers. A soft blue carpet stretches long and shimmering to the front of the church. The windows reach from the ceiling to the floor. One window is prettier than the others. I call it my window because it has my name on it. It is made of glass of many colors put together in a beautiful design. All the people who live on Church Street chose where they want to go to church on Sunday. Choose where they want to go to church on Sunday. My daddy says, it's wonderful to live in a country where you can choose your church. But I'm glad my family chose my church. It's such a nice church. Not too big, not too little, not too new, not too old, but just right for all of us who go there. So now you know about the street of churches in my town. But there's a church or a temple for everyone, in every city, in every town, in every village, in this big world of ours. Can you tell why that's one of my favorites? I just love that book. So, I'm thankful for you all. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful that this morning we got up and got to come to church, and one of my sons ran a camera. My husband helped at the computer, and we just all kind of take different parts. And if I didn't get to see you in person, I look forward to whenever I get to cross your path again. I'm praying for you, and I pray that you're well. Let me know if there's anything we can do, and I look forward to seeing you soon. I hope you're blessed. Bye-bye.